Hi there, this is the next video in the series that I promised you. I'm really sorry it's been a big gap between the two, but between a busy diary and it just being such horrible weather and the lighting hasn't been very good, it just has been on the to-do list, so I really am sorry. So this video takes the next step in the series. So we've looked at your identity, like how you see yourself. We've looked at your values. Now we looked at positive and negative values. So those things that are important to your life, to you, okay? Now, it may well be that you have more than three and that's fine, but we only want to look at your top three. So taking those values one at a time, I want you to just have a think about what has to happen for that value or that need to be met. Okay, so if you're somebody that needs security, then that might be, well, I need £5,000 in the month, £5,000 in my bank account every month, and I need £10,000 in savings. Okay, or it might be I need regular paychecks, or it might be I need a roof over my head, money in the bank, food in the cupboard. It's whatever it is to you. There's no right or wrong here. Okay, so take that value and just think about what has to happen for that value to be met. So I had a client who freedom was very important to, that sense of feeling free. Okay, so for them to have that freedom, they needed to be able to go away on holiday, they needed to be able to have flexibility in their job, and they needed to be able to feel that they could, to a large extent, go and do what they wanted to do when they wanted to do it. So for that to be met, certain rules had to apply to her. Okay, so I want you to take those top three values and just look at the rules that you have. So if it's love is important to you, what has to happen for you to feel that love? Okay. And then we're going to take your negative values and we're going to do exactly the same. Now, your negative values are those things that you're not so keen on. So let's say that you don't like being controlled by other people. What has to happen for you to feel controlled? Is it people just giving you orders and not explaining? Is it people just dictating to you and not allowing you to have any input? Or is it just when you don't feel that you have any say or input? Okay, so take those top three negative values and do those rules. Now, the next step from there is that we're going to create new rules, because if those values are an issue for you, then we need to have more positive rules around them. Okay, so let's say that your boundaries are important to you, and if you don't have your boundaries respected, you have a massive explosion of anger. Okay, so what rule could you put in place instead? So if my rules are not being met, if I am not feeling that my boundaries are being respected, then I need to have that conversation with that person and just say, look, excuse me, this is important to me, this is a boundary and it's not up for debate. Okay, so you're changing how those values affect you and you're changing how they impact you. Okay, and it may be that it's much smaller things than that. It might be much bigger things. You know, it might be that you find yourself being too much of a people pleaser, and so actually it's you that's got to respect that boundary. And so it might be that the rule needs to be going forward that instead of just saying yes to everything and doing what everyone else wants you to do, that actually you're just going to ask for 5 minutes to think about it, or you're going to give yourself some space. Okay, and so it's very important that you take some time on this. Don't rush it, and just see what has to happen. So for instance, I was watching a docu-series the other night with Brian Cox, the actor, and he was getting quite upset about the people in Dundee who were really poor and living more, not even on the breadline, they were like over the breadline. And he was being triggered because he, as a child, had been very poor, and this was triggering him. Okay, so he needed to really go and deal with that situation so that it didn't upset him and trigger him anymore. So he might want to change the rules, that when he comes across people that make him recall his childhood, instead of getting upset, he can do something positive about it. Okay, so the rules can be very, very tiny. All right, and so these rules are basically to help you understand what has been happening in the past and what needs to happen going forwards. Okay, now if your values are being met and if those rules that apply right now seem fine to you, then that's okay. But if you're looking at your list and going, do you know what, I don't really like that, then it's time to change those rules. Okay, so if there's something that you feel that you have to do or should do or must do, which is all the negative language that we don't use, okay, but if it's something that you feel that way about, then you might just change the language. Okay, so for instance, when we use language, we quite often use it poorly. Like people will say, oh, I have to go and get the kids from school. Well, surely you want your kids from school, but if you say I have to go and get them, it sounds like a chore. Whereas if you say I want to go and get my children, it doesn't sound like a chore. It's a desire, it's something positive. So language is very key. And so when you're looking at these rules, just look at what you've been saying to yourself about those values. Okay, so it might be that you need to have, I don't know, better exercise because your health is important to you. It's one of your top values, but you're not exercising. It's like, oh, I have to go to the gym. Oh, I have to go for a run. Change that language to I want to go to the gym. I want to go for a run. I want to go for a walk. Okay, so have a look at the language you're using. Have a look at what has to happen for your values to be met and what we need to change, if anything. All right. If you get stuck on this one, ping me a message or give me a shout, or if you're in my free group, then make a comment there and I will see what I can do to work with you. All right, so go away and work on that because there is actually quite a lot there, and I will get the next video ready for you. Okay, so I hope that helps and I'll see you later.